This is a crop tree release job that was done on a mixed wood stand. This is the first entry into this stand. The goal here was to identify the highest quality individual trees and open up their crowns so that we could have the crowns develop more foliage, which would in turn lead to increased growth rates on the trees that were targeted, and really trying to increase the growth of the best quality trees in the stand. So we've opened up the crowns on 3 sides, giving them enough room to grow for 10 years. The minimum diameter for a tree to be treated in this way is 10 centimeters. The average diameter for your treatment has to be 15 centimeters for the stand, and you need to maintain a residual basal area of 15 meters squared per hectare.
What basal area refers to as, and that is certainly a technical term as foresters and forest technicians use, is basically the surface area of a tree. The area that that tree occupies over the whole area is what is referred to as basal area. And really, it's a measure of density and distribution of your trees across the site, and it's really depending on the diameter of your trees.
For crop tree release jobs, you need to do a minimum of 100 trees per job, per site, and a maximum of 125 trees per hectare within that site. Crop tree release is also an effective treatment for hardwoods and can be claimed in combination with crop tree pruning. So you can see that this tree was given a 3-sided crown release and would also now be eligible to be pruned.
You don't do a crop tree release looking at your trees on the ground, you do a crop tree release looking up. So these have already closed in a lot already, but a lot of these trees would have had 1, 2, or 3 trees cut away from them when it was done. Because these trees are all about a size, it was important to remove a couple on 2 or 3 sides in order to release them.
Well, this here is a sugar maple that is certainly a tree that will respond well to release. And I say that because when you look at the tree bole, it's straight, it has good form, it has all clear faces, meaning that there's no scars, there's no damage. And when you look up, you can see that it has a very good crown. The total crown is approximately 1/3 of the total tree height. So that is another indication of why you would want to select these trees to leave your crop trees. This tree here is about 18 centimeters in diameter. It can certainly handle a light response to release. And I say a light because sometimes you don't want to open these up too much too soon, again, to make them vulnerable to weather-related damage, particularly your heavy snow and ice that you tend to get in the areas here in the Cobequid Mountains. So basically, the smaller your tree diameter is, the tighter your spacing you want it to be. Like, you don't want to open these up too much, and that you give them a little, you give them just enough growing space to expand their crowns, increase their growth, but not too much space to make them vulnerable. Sugar maple has a long lifespan. You certainly want to favor your long-lived, tolerant species in your selection management and crop tree release treatments. So this here can certainly have the potential to grow into a veneer quality product. I'm talking, trees that could be, 36 centimeters or so in diameter. So this here is really the whole purpose of doing this type of treatment. So during the next cutting cycle, which could perhaps be 10 or 15 years down the road, there'll be this sugar maple here to my left. That would be the candidate to remove, because this here is relatively of poor quality and will not improve at all to the extent that this sugar maple that I just pointed out previously to you, that certainly has lots of potential to grow into a better tree and to increase in value down the road. And this smaller diameter tree could be taken out, but really it's not interfering with this tree's crown, because this crown is up in the upper canopy and this is more of an intermediate stem. So it's really on the contractors and the woodlot owners' call if they would like a tree of this diameter cut. Sometimes it's good to leave these to serve as recruits. So if one of these do become damaged, these intermediate trees can quickly take the growing space that became available.
The first selection was this tree. Then by him being taken out, these two started to put on growth. And then when I come in the second time, I took this one out because I sat here and I used my basal area to determine which tree I wanted to take out, because I usually just sit and I go around and I sort of figure out if I left enough basal area plus opened it up a little bit and give this guy a chance. Because if you think about it, with that tree and that tree there, this was pretty tight here. And now it opened up all these trees, plus it give the ones on the bottom a chance to come up underneath. Don't think of it and be scared of the basal area, because I was intimidated at first, because you know, you're thinking specs and 16 to 30, and then you get in a spot and it's only 8 or 10 or 12, and then you go, well, this won't pass. But then you got a spot you leave a little tighter, and that averages out. So if you got 10 and 30, your average is 20. So you're still in that medium range for your basal area. Now I just pretty well basically do an eye sweep myself personally and count the trees around me and see if it will fall into that category. And I do double check myself, and then the technician and the forester comes in and does a prism sweep to also check on me too. And we try to keep in that range, like I said, but don't think that it all has to be uniform. It's a natural forest, so it's not uniform. When you go in, you don't want to take too much out the first time, because the trees are all dependent on each other. When the wind blows, they sort of hit each other. That stops them. So instead of blowing one tree over, got to really blow the whole stand over, basically. So you try not to leave it too open, because the root system got to be changed to now it moves a little more than it did before. So it takes a couple years for that root system to actually put on more spread so that it can hold that tree up and resist the wind. And that's what I usually tell you. After you do one of these, it usually takes 2 to 3 years for your growth to come back, because the first couple years is down there. The root system is trying to make up for being not held up by these 2 trees now. So that's what it does. It puts root system out first, then growth.
This particular tree is an eastern hemlock. This one is about 40 years old, and this would be a good example of a tree that's been suppressed a bit and been released and responded, and this will make a really good quality butt log in a few years' time. This is a fairly good example of a small white pine. It would have started in the shade of another tree. That's why we're able to grow this nice and straight without any weevil damage. And again, this has been pruned up 16 or 17 feet, and this will be another tree that will produce a really nice butt log, and will be a nice long-lived species.
If you look here, this site was done probably 10 or 11 years ago. So if you count back to 10 or 11 years, you'll probably be somewhere around here. So you've got about 2 inches or more of growth. And then if you take that same area and put it here and count the growth rings, it probably took 20 some years to grow the same as what I did in the last 10 or 11, because that was the line of when we released this site. And if you see, it did grow vigorously at first when it was younger, but then there was so many stems in the area that all of a sudden it started to slow down, because it was just so tight that it could not get any growth on, because they was fighting for nutrients, fighting for sun. This will be about 40 or some years, and I got 75% of the growth in 10 or 11 years compared to what I had in 40 some years. And that's where you gain. And it's consistent through the tree. Like this one's at 16 feet. So you can still see, it's not like it just did it on the butt. It's going same thing. Fast growth, stunted from being too tight. And then when we released it, she took off. And there's where it puts this growth on. And I have another one here. This is at 32 feet. It's through the whole tree that you got that consistency. The value added by doing that treatment is so much. I can cut my land off and put my money in the bank or in the stock market, and we know where that went. Or I can put my money in the forest and have my interest being earned every year from my growth, instead of thinking that I have to cut it all down and get a lot of money, when I'm really can make more money by leaving them trees stand and getting the interest off of that growth every year. And that's the way I think about it, because I'd rather have my money in this bank than have it in a bank, right? Because potential for growth is phenomenal. And I mean, just speaks for itself, right? Just speaks for itself.
Well, I think just the basic principle of sustainability that applies to anything in life. If you manage it sustainably, then it's there for the indefinite future. You know, we want to keep this for our future, but also for our kids and our grandkids' future. We have long enjoyed the woods for its beauty, and we want to keep it that way. So we entirely believe in the sustainable forestry operation that will allow us to continue to have a beautiful woodlot that we can enjoy, but at the same time it can be economically sustainable as well.
A lot of things that I do today will be judged by the future generations, because I probably won't be around to see a lot of this stuff, but at least there'll be something here for them to see, and they can judge me on that after I'm gone, and they'll be able to decide what they want to do with the stands then, because I'm sure that treatments will change with time and our perspective on different things in life too.
For more information, please visit our website.
Jesus, it's a nice day in the woods today.